A few hours ago, Hideki Kamiya has posted this huge thread, and in the grand calculus of Bayonetta 3 news, this is relatively huge. You have the Sakurai tweet going around where he tweeted the Bayo 1 and 2 Smash Ultimate models, where Kamiya quote tweeted, "If only there was just a little fix." I'm sure it's a little hint to the Bayonetta 3 skin coming to Smash Ultimate soon. But seriously, this does give me a sliver of hype considering these following tweets a few hours ago could be to get Bayonetta 3 back into everyone's heads, and you know what that means, a lot of hopes brewing for a Nintendo Direct. And everyone has been asking for where it is since we have the Capcom Showcase and very recently the Sony State of Play event. My take is that there will be a June Direct sometime in the next 2 weeks, so we'll be having our traditional watch party live stream. I'll talk about the upcoming events in just a sec right after these awesome tweets that we can extrapolate some scenes of Bayonetta 3 from. I am positive Bayonetta 3 will be in the next Nintendo Direct, and here's why.
Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Now seriously, here we go. Somehow I wanted to say this again, but if you were thinking of playing Bayonetta 3, I definitely want you to play Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 by now. I think that people can enjoy the story 100 times more. Keep in mind that a few or a lot of these tweets can be lost in Google Translate, so I will pin whoever can translate these words in the comments below. In Bayonetta 2, we intentionally created a story that you can enjoy playing in any order of 1 and 2. However, in Bayonetta 3 this time, I wrote a scenario assuming 1 or 2 experienced people because the recognition of the work would have spread sufficiently, and I wanted to make the world view more profound. Come to the preparatory play. The new line of wanted to make the world view of Bayonetta 3 more profound I think would be a nice hint to the multiple timelines theory or how the Bayoverse actually works, but you can more realistically talk about how this game could have more world building much bigger than Bayonetta 1 and 2. Do I think it's a hint to an open world feature? I think that is quite stretching it. I really believe he's more hinting that he's more involved with the writing and world building of Bayonetta or the Bayonetta lore. I mean by more towns, more interactions with the people and the environment, since I believe the trinity of realities have merged, which is why you can see these MILFs or these mysterious life forms. So if I were you, I would hope for a more in-depth, more interactable environment while still keeping the chapter-to-chapter or chapter-to-verse progression. He's already said this tweet before a few months ago, where if you truly want to experience Bayonetta 3, you have to understand the first 2 games. And if you want an explanation for Bayonetta 1 and 2 and how they connect with time travel and all that jazz, I will link them at the end of this video. But in terms of lore, this just screams some sort of drama or consequence of the time travel that happened between the 2 games, such as little brave Cereza, who's grown up having her own timeline because we do have proof of multiple timelines in the Bayoverse. You have Kamiya pointing out that another axis of time was created.
新しい体験をしたセレッサを過去の世界に返したことで、まず肌身離さずつけていた怪獣時計に守られて歴史が変わるわけですね。歴史とこの2つが生まれるわけですけどもね。
And the infamous parallel universe tweet about the end chapter in Bayonetta 2. So if they have been hinting at multiple timelines which are eventually correct with these 3 hints, I'm going to be so happy. This has been my thesis for the past 2.5 years. But again, keeping it realistic, it could just be a continuation of Bayonetta 2, and this is just one half of Bayonetta, aka continuing on from the combined singular timeline interpretation. This just came to my mind. Are they going to pull a sort of red versus gold type of situation where we verse our previous save file from Bayonetta 1 or Bayonetta 2? It was kinda simulated back then in Gold and Silver, thinking about what sort of monster we created, who was red. So my theory is that maybe our builds and best skill levels in the Switch's save memory of Bayonetta 1 and 2 will be used in Bayonetta 3. Even more fitting now that the trilogy is consolidated onto the Switch. I actually thought about this in 2020, ages ago, when I first saw Angel Slayer's last boss, which was, spoiler alert, Us or Bayonetta, who was dubbed in Japanese. So it's like versing Bayonetta versus, or it's like having Bayonetta versus Bayonetta. So if they can really pull this off, imagine how cool that would be to finally have it into reality. We're not just versing Bayonetta, we're versing Us in the future. That is quite cool. This is now my theory on why I think he continues to urge people to play Bayonetta 1 and 2 before the release of Bayonetta 3, which I hope I can help in spreading from this video. The reason why I say this now is that the release date is decided by Mr. Udon Tenny, so I cannot say anything to us, but since it was said to be 2022 in the PV, other personnel, if you believe it, I don't have much time to release, so I want you to enjoy 1 and 2 with plenty of time, backing up my theory. This part of the thread is just reiterating that it is not his decision to release a release date for Bayonetta 3. Of course, the Mr. quote-unquote Udon Tenny, a clever pseudonym for Nintendo, and we've been saying this for so long, ever since 2020, so let's move on. He then has a joke prediction scenario of a customer purchasing Bayonetta 3 about Super 3, which I believe a lot of the joke is Google mistranslation. You can discuss what he meant or what you think he meant below, but here is where he reveals some news use, especially for us merch collectors. And because of this, I don't need a product like the so-called 1-2-3 set version, at least at the timing of the third release. Or on the contrary, I personally think that it will spoil the enjoyment of the game. So from this, it looks like there won't be a trilogy box set near or on the release date of Bayonetta 3, since he thinks it will spoil the enjoyment of the game. That just backs up my theory about us versing our best save file stats in Bayonetta 3. To explain my theory a little bit more, hypothetically, if you bought the trilogy set, and let's assume brand new, so you've never played Bayonetta on that Switch or on that device ever before, there is no existing player or save file which Bayonetta 3 could use, and frankly, I theorize again, that's why he really urges people to continue on their hours, their save files, so that way they can enjoy Bayonetta 3. Continuing on, I think this part has some typos or Google mistranslates, since it talks about the long time since the release of Bayonetta 3 and refers to the supposed Bayonetta 4. These are most likely typos, sarcasm, his type of way of joking, or a mistranslation, which I'll leave in the comments for anyone to help translate. So if you want to see me scream again like this, wait, reserve your seat here to watch it all with us. We have a lot of fun. And I explain the whole Bayonetta timeline here. I'm rockin' and never get disheartened.